What's going on, everybody? This is old, never before seen footage of one of my all-time favorite mines. I recently came across this footage going through some of my files, and this is from a good 5 years ago, my early days of exploring mines, before I even started doing YouTube. Some of my longtime viewers might recognize the location. About 3 years ago, I have a video of me and my girlfriend exploring this. But on this particular occasion, I'm alone, walking around. I'm not even speaking. It looks like I'm just taking it all in. So at the time, this was obviously not meant to be a YouTube video. It was just if I wanted to go back and watch the footage for myself. But instead of letting it go to waste, I figure, why not give you guys one last look at this location? It's quite remarkable. It's been inaccessible for quite a few years now. The entrance was bulldozed over, so unfortunately, I'll never have the opportunity to come back, make a better video of it. I would have loved to have gotten footage of this on the camera I have now, the better lighting, the editing skills that I have now, but you know what? This actually isn't all that bad of footage, and it's a nice little walk down memory lane. So where I'm at here is called the Motor Barn, and I would say it's about a good third of a mile down the slope. And it's basically just an underground mine cart repair shop. You'll see right in the middle, in between this giant crane, a pit. So there would be tracks where the carts would just go right over the pit, and you'd have the mechanic down there work on the bottom of the carts. You have a toolbox on the floor there. Just remarkable that this huge piece of infrastructure is underground. They didn't have to come to the surface to work on the carts. They just did it right here inside the mine. A little bit of a collapse before you go into the next section of the motor barn. Let's have one peek back there. Not sure what those metal bars that came down from the ceiling. It looks like it's going through a hole in the wall on the right. Maybe for electricity. Now this room was a little dicey. There's another pit right in the middle of the floor. You have these rickety old boards that I had to walk over so I didn't fall through. And man, I think they were pretty shaky from what I remember. You have doors on the walls. That was definitely, I would imagine, to control airflow. Every time you went into a new section, there was a pair of doors like that. Their workbench, lots of shelves in the wall. That's pretty cool. All your supplies, what have you, would be stored in here. How cool would it have been to see these shelves full of tools and parts. It all lit up in here with lights. I mean, wow. What an incredible sight that had to have been. Through one more set of doors. Keep the good air in, the bad air out. I think this might actually be the beginning of the motor barn, and I started at the end. Because there's nothing really in here. It's kind of just empty. So I'm thinking maybe the carts just lined up and waited their turn to get worked on. All these hanging pipes from the ceiling must have had electrical wire going through. So I would imagine it was nice and lit up in here back in the day when this was operational. Coming up in just a moment is definitely my favorite shot. Wait for it. And boom, there it is, 1915 Motor Barn. Wow. I remember my first time seeing that, I was just speechless. So that definitely wasn't for airflow. That's a gate, because it would appear that they locked the motor barn up when they were done working. There's a chain there and everything, so they didn't want to risk any untrustworthy miners coming back and swiping up something that wasn't theirs. You know, you would imagine there was some very expensive parts and tools stored in there. And continuing to another section of the mine, there's a massive collapse here. I gotta climb up over. So looking back down from this huge collapse is the beginning of a concrete haulage tunnel. There's a timber right there in the middle holding up the roof. That may have been placed later on because it looks like there's tracks, and that obviously would have been in the way when the coal carts were rolling through here. But this would just get you from one section of the mine to the other. When the carts were loaded up with coal, they would pass through here, up the slope and to the surface, headed to the breaker. And it's kind of hard to tell where this would have went to. That is as bad of a collapse as it gets. But if that were me nowadays, you know I'd be trying to get through there. And this passage is a manway for the miners to get to other parts of the workings. Wow, you got some fungus there growing right out of the timbers. I don't know much about mushrooms. I don't pick them. I definitely don't eat them either. So you'd have to zigzag around these timbers to get through the doorway, which is kind of interesting. But if they felt that the roof might be unstable, you know, better safe than sorry. Yeah, look at the ceiling there. Doesn't look the greatest. Appears to almost be going right through a coal vein. So we're getting pretty far into the mine at this point. And for me back in the day, this was quite the adventure. Doing it alone, having no idea what was around every corner. Things get pretty interesting here. See, this doorway is going to take you down to a lower level. I was probably hanging out at that doorway for a minute or two, contemplating if I was actually going to go down or not. But seeing this metal rail, I mean, that's inviting enough, right? Going all the way down. It's a cool little rock tunnel. The ceiling is obviously in pretty terrible shape. Look at all the boulders that came down. Whoa, look at that Widowmaker just hanging there by a thread. Not good. Yeah, I can't even imagine what was going through my mind at this time. Just heading down deeper and deeper into the earth. Probably a bit of excitement. Unfortunately, there's not much down here, at least not anymore. Yeah, that roof is pretty terrible. I do remember as soon as I made that corner there, the air just changed completely. It was just very dry and stagnant. I probably didn't even have a gas meter at the time, so I wasn't about to chance going a whole lot further than right here. Got a bit of a gobble and a timber, and that goes off into a crawl somewhere. If that were me today, oh, you know I'd be doing it. So we have here some bonus footage when I came back up to that first level. And this is a hospital, an underground hospital for the mine. Having a peek around. It's a cool little window there. Let's head on in. So this may not appear to be a very big room, but from what I've seen in other mines, this is actually one of the bigger infirmaries that I've seen. You have a shelf there for medical supplies. Yeah, this is your main room. You probably would have had, you know, half a dozen at most beds in here, probably less. Another supply cabinet. Timbers right in the middle of the room, supporting the ceiling just in case. And then you have another separate room in the back here, which is really interesting. Was it possibly the medical examiner's office? You usually don't see this in mine hospitals. It's usually just one square room, no additional rooms like this. And another one in the back. I mean, was this a washroom, possibly? You had a door on there. So this is just really interesting. That's why I said this is the nicest hospital I've ever seen underground. Would you catch that date? I think it said 1920-something. So yeah, I mean, it might not look like much, but believe it or not, it was more than adequate at the time to meet your daily basic medical needs. Just picture this room with a fresh coat of paint on the walls, nice woodwork on the doors and windows, the beds, shelves full of medical supplies. Must have been a beautiful sight. But obviously you wouldn't want to end up in there. So we're going to conclude this video with one last pass through The Motor Barn Gates. What a beautiful sight that is. I'm just really happy I came across this footage and was able to share it with you. So thanks for watching, and as I always say at the end of my videos, please stay out, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next hole.